Welcome to JDM Imported.
What's up, friends? Welcome back to another episode of JDM Imported. I'm your host, as always, Dante Prinzo, owner-operator of Elusive Auto Company, Japanese importer, vehicle importer of the classics. And again, this is my story. This is my blog-style podcast following the journey from my garage to a brick and mortar. And, well, let's see. What's our countdown here? When I started the podcast, I believe it was 18 months. We're getting in that like 10, 12-month range, and we're on point. So, as always, thanks for following along. Really appreciate the feedback, the love on social, the DMs with questions, the calls, the emails. As always, I'm here to kind of shed light, offer a completely transparent view on the importing process, on vehicles that are available out there, insuring, tax, whatever. I mean, all of those things that, yes, you can find answers on Google, but sometimes it's nice to find them in one spot and from someone that's been through it, you know? There's a lot of little details, I think, that are often glazed over. So let's get into it. Episode 12, we're rolling along. It's been a while, so hey, guys and girls, apologize for the delay here. I think the last upload was the 13th. I try to do 2 a month. Obviously, I'd like to do more, but shit's been hectic. Let's just be straight. You know, since, if you've been following along, since making the transition from my corporate job to doing this full time, it has been just that. And with the addition of the detailing service I've been offering, mainly has spawned out of necessity, but also something I've always wanted to do, and I think a really good service that I'm going to offer with a brick and mortar. I have some really good ideas for some mobile service, but also some really fine detailing, because straight up, I'm pretty good at it. You know, I have all the equipment. It's something that I've done a lot of restoration on cars, stuff that's more than just, you know, fixing stains and throwing some spray wax, but we're talking wet sanding, paint correction, using daylight lights, all different kind of equipment, paint depth gauges, you name it. So it's kind of my jam. You know, it's why I've been kind of bringing, you know, the cars from Japan that come over. None of them, I don't care if they're a 4 grade at the auction, you know, the paint's always rough. It needs a lot of love. So, and I kind of pride myself in not just cleaning, but kind of rejuvenating trim, re-dyeing trim if need be. And so obviously took that show on the road, make some extra money. It's another service I'm offering through Elusive Auto. And that has been keeping me crazy busy. I really never thought that I'd be detailing pretty much every day, but that's what it's been. And it's been just essentially word of mouth. You know, I've done some nice cars. They tell their friends with nice cars. And then all of a sudden, you know, just word gets around, I think, when you have decent communication. And again, talked about this in previous podcasts. Man, it's paramount, more so than the product you have, more so than the service you offer, is you. The way you communicate, the way you set expectations, and man, this has really been an eye-opener. Things I've known, but I think that's really going to help me in the dealership end as well. Just kind of offering expectations with customers and all that. Because, like I said, I think I'm good at that with selling these cars. You know, the ones that have gone out the door that I've brought in have been in nice shape, but I always tell people, I mean, straight up, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's a great idea to daily an FD that's 26 years old, or you know, a Laurel that's, you know, 27 years old, or a Soar or Scott, whatever it may be, because they're classics. I mean, let's be straight up. These are classic cars. I could drive them for 200 miles before I sell them, which I always try to do. And, you know, something could go wrong tomorrow because, you know, old sensors, old wires, you know it. You've lived it. We've been around it. I don't need to go over that anymore. But listen, so on the episode today, I thought this would be kind of fun. I want you guys to blow me up on social, DM me, message me, send me an email. Help me out here, because since the detailing's been doing well, and it's keeping me busy as I'm waiting to to sell some inventory and bring some other cars in, which again, I'm kind of stuck in North Carolina, but with the amount of cars I can bring in, but I'm going to get to that a little later in the episode. But anyways, the detailing biz, I need a name. I mean, because Elusive Auto Company, that's the name of the business for importing Japanese cars, and it kind of makes sense. You know, it's finding the cars that to most are kind of elusive, kind of hard to find. Then it's kind of a play on the sports car aspect because, you know, nimble, fast, elusive type cars. Okay, so we understand the name. We're all in agreement. Whether you like it or not, it kind of makes sense with what I'm doing, right? It doesn't so much make sense with the detailing. Like and this is why I used Auto Company, because I knew there's going to be some other services and facets, whether it be maintenance, whether it be detailing, sales. As with any dealership, you need many revenue streams I think, to be successful. But in order to do that, I can't really use the company name for detailing because it just doesn't make sense. You know, I don't know. Let me know what you think. I mean, I can either keep the name under the umbrella, under the corporate umbrella that I've structured, and it'll just be like Elusive Auto Company Detailing, generic, whatever. But, you know, I'm trying to kind of differentiate, because when I give people, you know, to make separate business cards, separate pamphlets, promo material, because when I give people what I have now, it's like, you know, my business card says JDM cars done right. What the hell is this telling me about? People are confused. You know, someone that calls me with their Mercedes SUV doesn't even know what JDM means. I need something separate, right? So, but I'm kind of stuck there because, I don't know, like, you don't want a detailing company that's hard to find, right? So like Elusive Auto Company Detailing. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me know your thoughts. You know, my other thoughts were like Elusive Auto Shine. It's like kind of chasing after that, you know, that final 5%, but then all of a sudden, but then as well, that could be kind of misleading. So I don't know. So I don't know, Elusive Auto Shine, Elusive Auto Company Detailing, or maybe just a separate name. Like, it doesn't have to have it. I'll link it to my website, whatever. But yeah, so hit me up on social media. Any of your ideas, if you think that it makes sense, just if you like the name that I've going on right now and just add detailing to the end, just to keep the brand consistent. Or if you have any other ideas, you know, like slop detailing, whatever it is, I don't care. Throw them my way. I think it'd be kind of fun. And, you know, maybe next podcast, if I get a turnout, you know, if people actually get back to me and have some suggestions, I'll go over maybe a top 5 or top 3 from the ones that I've heard. You know, we can take consensus. As always, I like to include you in on everything because, quite honestly, you know, you're the pulse of the industry. People listening to this, my customers, I'd be a fool not to listen and just think that I know it all and my ideas are the best. I'd be an idiot. I feel like I'm kind of smart, but come on. Got to eat some humble pie now and again. So, again, all social media is Elusive Auto Co. So, you know, DM me on Facebook, on Instagram, or you can email me, Dante at Elusive Auto Co. So, again, that's ELUSIVE Auto Co. Anyways, let me know. I think this will be fun. I'm kind of excited. I hope I have a turnout. I hope I have a little better turnout than a couple episodes ago when I did the giveaway. I didn't have many people get back to me. I had to track down a couple winners. I did have one. They didn't want to come on the podcast, which I totally respect. Whatever. But anyways, hopefully this is a nice little turnout. Blow me up, make fun of me, whatever. Just I'd like to hear your response with names because I think this will help me moving forward. And again, I need some brand separation. You know, from the car sales side to the service side, I think. As always, I'll give you a rundown on the rest of the episode. So I had some questions come up about importing non-running cars for projects. We're going to talk about that a bit. Also, I wanted to go over, because I'm seeing an influx of cars I love that other companies seem to be bringing in. I'm seeing more of them on the road, being for sale. So in kind of the sweet spot, the $15,000 to $20,000 range, kind of, this isn't my conclusive top list of the cars you can get. These are ones I like and I'm seeing more of and I think are a good value in that 15 to 20 range, you know, that aren't really going to fall off, that you're not going to see a ton of. So if you keep for a while, you'll be in good shape. Obviously, we know what you can get for the, you know, 15 and below range. usual suspect, the Silvias, the R32 GTSTs, a bunch of other ones we can go over. But anyways, we're going to focus on that 15 to 20, and I'll share some of that. But before we get into that, some business updates, a little bit of house cleaning. So as mentioned earlier, my schedule's been absurd. I still haven't listed fully my my M5 that I'm selling because, quite frankly, all I need to do is clean it. But I'm just being crazy about it. Like, I want it to be super clean because, as you know, if you follow the YouTube channel, I like to do complete walkarounds of anything I have for sale. And when I mean complete, I'm talking like 15 to 17 minute videos of a detailed, kind of as if you were with me, pointing out features, pointing out flaws, pointing out selling points, some nice features, some nice maybe quirks you didn't know about the vehicles for sale. And in order to do that and make me feel good about what I'm presenting, I like the car to be more than just kind of wash and vacuum. I like, you know, kind of a full detail. And I was correcting some things on the M5, you know, had to do a headlight restoration. There was some cracking in the UV coating, replaced some weather stripping that was cracked. I mean, all these little things I just think make for a nice presentation. When someone buys it, you know, it just doesn't take away kind of the sweetness of the purchase, right? You know, because you get home, you're all excited to show people, and there's like hazy lights, there's cracking molding. It's like, ugh, you know? So anyways, again, I think my biggest issue is kind of going a little overboard with things, and it slows my roll a bit, but that's just what I want to do. So I'm going to keep doing it. So far, the feedback's been worth it. So, but yeah, I haven't even had time to get that on the market. I need to, really, after I do this podcast today, I'm going to finish dyeing some of the leather in some spots that had some stress on them, and I don't know, hopefully I can wrap it up shortly. But yeah, I've been busy with the detailing. I've been doing, you know, pretty much one a day, which takes, you know, 4 or 5 hours minimum. And yeah, as far as bringing the cars in, I just started getting a little bit of freed up time to work on the FC, the right-hand drive RX-7 FC that I have. Really excited about this car. This has been a huge undertaking. This is more than just, hey, let's clean it up, do the fluids, and sell it. This has been like, you know, I needed to replace the bumper. I've talked about this in past episodes, so I won't get into too much detail, but, you know, body kit, fitting the body kit, the whole car needs a respray, you know, just a bunch of dings and dents. I had as much as I could taken out with painless dent, and then other ones, you know, just body work. So, and then of course, you know, I'm looking at the thing and I'm like, you know, the spoiler that came with it was in trash shape. And I'm like, you know what? Clean slate, clean canvas for somebody that buys this. So the 6 holes that are in the deck lid, well, not really deck lid, but, you know, the quarter area that meets up against the hatch, I'm just going to smooth those out. And I mean, come on, that's a huge undertaking. It's not just as easy as like throwing a little spackle on the holes. It turned into a whole thing. You know, you have to take all the trunk apart, take some latches and just all kind of bracketry apart so that I could access the holes from the inside to scuff them up, fiberglass from the inside, because the sheet metal is real thin. I didn't want to get into welding. I think that would warp it, especially with how thin and how close it is to like a 90-degree bend in the back. So it just, I mean, we're talking hours upon hours just on getting those holes filled and then fitting the body kit. So I feel like I'm kind of home stretch on that. I probably have another, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours before I can take it to paint. But once that's done, I mean, it's ready for sale. I have the title and I'm ready to roll with that. And, you know, the Cedric's still out there. I'm kind of surprised the Cedric hasn't gotten more love. I know it's a smaller market, but I tried to price it really competitive because the only other ones I've found out there are around the same price. The non-turbo versions are around 9,000, but they're kind of average miles. And when I say average, I mean average for Japanese cars. For us, it'd be absurdly low, you know, for a 25-year-old car. But I mean, you know, ones with like 40 to 60,000 miles still going for like low 9s to high 8s. And this one has under 10,000. And I have it marketed at 8,900, you know. I'm kind of firm on that because it's I just want to price it quickly, and I know that there's not a ton of people out there looking for them, but someone's looking for something clean for VIP project. I mean, I can't think of a better platform. It's just, the car is mint, you know, but I don't know, maybe I need to do a better job marketing it and really getting the word out there. I mean, it's it's not like you can put it on your typical cars.com and stuff like that, because there's not even a section really for a Cedric. And plus, usually I get bombarded with insurance calls and just business marketing stuff from there rather than actual customers. So I just put it up on eBay. We'll see if that yields some results. But I'm surprised it's still out there. It's one of a kind. I really haven't. It's not one of a kind because of what it is, but the mileage. I've been stating, and I've been doing it with a question mark because I can't say for a fact it's the lowest in the States. But of all the research I've done of anything that's ever been posted out there that's been sold or anyone's had up on social media, it is the lowest mileage that I have found in the States. So yeah, maybe I'll run a promo like, give someone $100-$150 for a referral for someone that buys. I don't know. I have to get creative because I want to get this one sold because, quite frankly, and this is kind of getting back to the business updates. I want to clear out the inventory because, as mentioned in previous episodes, last one there, I'm pretty much done being able to import cars in this fine state of North Carolina, which is fine because we planned on moving anyways back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The state's been not even the state. The state troopers at the local DMV have just been all over the place, super unorganized. I've heard 4 different interpretations of the rule of bringing in 5 in consecutive 12-month time. They completely are on a different base than Raleigh, which, for those of you who aren't in this area, Raleigh is the basically the one that legislates all the laws for the DMVs here locally. So I would tend to side with what they say, and they say that I was fine, and these state troopers are disagreeing, and they're essentially put me on a board and said if they see my name again, they'll fine me and blah blah blah. Whatever, that's fine. All that's going to do is really move the move forward a little bit, to get to Pittsburgh. So I've already started applying for what I need for a dealership license, and I think I found a place too. I'm getting verification that that'll work. So that whole 10-12 months might get bumped up a little bit. I think when my kid's done with school here, this first year of kindergarten, hopefully we'll be ready to roll. Maybe a little bit beforehand, I'll be kind of going back and forth to get things set up. But listen, it was kind of a bummer, but I don't know, maybe it's a good thing. Clear the inventory, have some capital to play with, selling our house, have some more to play with, so that when I do open the brick and mortar, it'll be more than just 1 or 2 cars. I might be able to start off with like 3 to 5, depending on the quality of cars, which would be a great place to start, to like have a place, open up. Really my goal is like 4 cars, and to start that way. And then I think really things will start steamrolling, because the way I calculate things, as long as you can hold 4 to 5 in inventory, you should be able to sell like 2 a month. And so in my 6-month time frame of starting, I think I could be able to work up to like an 8 to 10 inventory. And really I'd like to keep, just in long-term future plans for the business, I think kind of the sweet spot is that like 15 car inventory. Because I think you'd have plenty to choose from for people. Again, once I have my dealer license, I think what's really going to be a hit, just based on me testing the market, is a purchasing service to bring in cars specifically for people. So that'll be in addition to inventory. And I think having a spread like that is like enough to choose from for somebody that's ready to roll. And like I said, we'll kind of keep that conveyor belt going of rolling cars over, so you're never really too light, you're never too heavy. I think it's nice and steady and manageable without getting into kind of the next level. And what I've been hearing and just kind of seeing, and this is based on people that aren't even my customers, that have just called, asked for questions, or shared experiences with me, is kind of dealing with the super high volume dealers, is just running into issues of not, this goes back to expectations, not getting what they thought they were going to get. And it's really no one's fault except for maybe the dealers getting a little too busy for their infrastructure. And what I mean by that is, if you have like an inventory of 50 cars and you have someone driving maybe 4 hours to come pick a car up, if you don't properly road test that car and you know someone's driving it home, like I feel like that's on you. Like I would take personal responsibility for that. And but these places get so big, so busy, they only have like 3 or 4 employees. That is just not enough to properly vet everything and test everything before it goes out the door, especially if, you know, people are coming right after you post it on your site, they're driving in. Like, I get it. It's really hard. And that's why I think kind of that sweet spot, that 15, 20 cars, you can manage it with a small staff. And listen, if things really take off, you open another location with a similar size. I think that's more manageable than trying to kind of trim the service and increase the inventory. You know what I mean? I don't think that's long-term sustainable. And the range I'm talking about, kind of the size of company, I think allows you to be a little more nimble in making shifts as market shifts, because, you know, right now the cars that are hot might not be hot in 5 years. There might be a shift. There might be more of, maybe people get more into Euros in the area. Like, I want to be able to have that agility to kind of listen, right? To have that close relationship with everyone, so I can listen, kind of adapt and grow and really continue with the market instead of trying to just quench the market. You know what I mean? Basically staying on the crest of that wave, not when it's breaking, and not be left behind. So that's my thoughts on that and where the business is going. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little slow for bringing cars in until through the winter months, but that's cool, because that's a slow time anyway. And then once it starts warming up again, it'll be go time, hopefully, with the brick and mortar, and kind of roll everything out. And you guys can either say I told you so, or congratulate me, or whatever, because you've been along for the ride. So exciting about that. Totally excited. And I keep clicking my freaking pen cap on the glass, so sorry if that's annoying. But on to the next. So here's something that's been coming up. And not just this month, but it's just been coming up. I feel like I should address it. And it might help some of you out that are thinking of bringing something in, or just in general with project cars. So here we go. Often get the question, Dante, I'm looking for a car on the cheap. I really don't care if it works. I just want, the body, the shell, the chassis, and don't care if it has an engine or the engine's running. I just want to save money because planning on doing a motor swap. So a lot of this going on, understandably so. This is me too. When I bought some cars here stateside for myself, my SC300 that I did a road race build out of, some of the past projects, it's when you bring them in or when you go find them, like, you really don't care, and you don't want to pay for that motor that runs good, that has good compression, that doesn't have any knock or anything, because you're going to be doing a swap. You might get in a Sylvia and you want to put a 2J in it, or an LS, or you might bring that RX-7 in and want to do a swap, whatever it is. So I totally understand, and that's super popular stateside, but more and more people have been asking me about the right-hand drive cars and the chassis, and some of the ones that we haven't been able to get here, finding an Evo with a blown motor so they can do a swap or do a build, whatever they want to get into. And that's all well and good. And you can absolutely do that, and I would never tell someone you can't do that. But again, we get back to expectations. Let's set those, right? Let's set the expectations. So you buy a car here stateside, rolling chassis. What do? That you want to do a build. Flatbed it to your house, or pick it up if you have a trailer and a truck, and you get to work. Pretty simple. You get the savings for the chassis, totally make up for, having the blown motor, because you're doing the swap. So if you're looking at a 240 that's clean with a stock motor, or one that's a rolling chassis, we all know that it totally makes sense to get that rolling chassis if you're doing a build and you're going to put a blacktop in it or whatever. So that's fine, because really all you're paying for is like domestic shipping. That might be the extra as opposed to driving it yourself. And really sometimes that's negligible, because it might take you a couple $100, or if you're flying, even more than that, and then you drive it home, might as well have someone ship it. Totally makes sense. Now, when we're talking overseas, there was a litany of additional fees that you will accrue buying a cheaper car. And listen, I'm going to throw up the quotes because no one can see me, but the quotes around cheaper, because what starts out as a cheaper car might not be by the time it gets to your door. And whatever savings you wanted because it's a build have completely been wiped because of the extra handling and the extra shipping. And any things that you might run into with customs. That's another level too, because they will visually inspect the car, and most don't care, but again, letter of the law, they could give you some issues if it's, has a different motor in, non-running, whatever. But let's get to the basics. You want to buy a car that's blown motor. So let's just use for this case study, let's just say one that everyone's familiar with. You want a Silvia. You want a Silvia. You don't care if it's a K, if it's a Q. You just want maybe a nice two-tone, brick lights, with a blown motor. High mileage, whatever, because you're going to do a drift car. So that's great. So if we're talking actual savings, through private party or auction, a clean one compared to one with blown motor, you might save a couple grand, maybe in really specific circumstances, 3. But we'll just work with that. Like, okay, so you saved, because they're not that expensive to begin with, so you might save like 2 grand, 2 to 2,500. So when cars are typically shipped that are in running order, they get shipped row, which is roll on, roll off, which means, you buy it domestically in Japan, whatever auction or dealer it comes from, it is then shipped to the port, Yokohama, whatever it may be. And from there, there's, port handling fees, whatever, and they then drive it onto the boat. And then whenever it lands stateside here, they drive it off of the boat. So this makes loading and unloading, the packers, which they call them like in Japan, makes their job really easy, no extra fees. They start it up, they might need to jump it, they roll it on, roll it off. Simple. And that shipping's usually, depending on the car, like between 1,000 and 1,500. Pretty straightforward, and that's to get it here. And this is for one that's running. So one that is not running, here's where we kind of open Pandora's box. So if it's not running, you have an extra fee for that domestic shipping, because now whoever's picking up in a flatbed or car transport, if it's not at the port, which it never is, there's some way, even if you're buying something from an auction that is right by the port, it still needs to get there somehow. They're not going to drive it on the road. It still needs to get there via transport. So then you have extra transport fees, because what do they have to do? They need a winch. It's going to change in how they pack their cars, because yours is non-running. So if they have a bunch of running cars, they'll have to take those off and maybe put yours on first, so they never have to move it again as they're picking other cars up. This will usually double your domestic shipping. Again, not the end of the world. You could accrue that and still make a case for it, because the domestic shipping, we're talking like hundreds of dollars. It's whatever. When you get to the port, you will then have some issue, a bunch of issues to deal with handling with the packers, because now what they'll do is, so you have 2 options. You can ship it on a pallet row, which is the cheaper option, as opposed to putting it in a shipping container. So to do that, they are then going to move it around the boat yard with a forklift. Like, no joke. They put it on a special pallet and with a forklift, and in some cases, they won't even roll it on. Sometimes they'll pick the car up with a forklift and put it on the pallet. No, and there's kind of a gray area whether they're supposed to, and this is something, I've talked ad nauseum about, because I've tried to find ways to maybe bring cars in that were projects, because, maybe I can build them. Maybe it's a different way to get some revenue in the cars. I've talked to it ad nauseum with the person that I have to doing the exporting, and it just the amount of things that you're going to expose yourself to that could damage the car goes up exponentially when it can't run, because we have cars being moved with forklifts. Sometimes they with a body kit, forget about it. Side skirts or any origin kits, stuff like that, they will undoubtedly be cracked unless you have somebody totally raise and max out the suspension. But still, we're talking, they're throwing it on pallets, they're moving it with forklifts. You will absolutely get a damaged body kit if it's on. Even if it's stock, chances of damage are greatly inflated as opposed to them just driving it on, driving it off. Because there's been cases, many cases that have been shared with me of forklifts cracking body kits, damaging frame rails, because sometimes I don't know what they're called, but the prongs or whatever aren't wide enough, of kind of overshooting in the actual forklift, kind of denting into the door. We're not talking totaling cars, but these are all things that whatever savings you've been able to gain by getting a car that wasn't running have now been negated because there's body work that you have to do now, or the wheels that you liked are scratched or bent or whatever. So you have the damage to contend with, which is definitely a thing. So and there is an extra fee for a non-running car to do it row with the forklift. So that might increase it $5. I don't know. Let's round number because it really depends on the size car. But let's just say it's like an extra $500-700 to ship. Now, if you don't want to, if you feel that the body damage isn't quite worth the risk, you could always do a container. Problem is with the container, again, you have people kind of pushing it on, pushing it off. And a container is usually about double the shipping cost. So that right there will pretty much wipe whatever savings you have from getting a blown motor car completely away if you do a container. So, container, so if we're like $1,000 to $1,500 for row container, we're going to be like, I don't know, $2,500 to $3,000 for container shipping. Now it's not making sense. And if you do the row with a non-running car and forklift operation, yes, it's way cheaper. It's still going to be more than if it was running, but you're still getting close to the 2K range. In any kind of damage, then that could be wiped. So, and this is just before we've left the country. Now that the car has landed stateside, the port handling fees are pretty standard for all cars. Depending on the port and who you're working with, they could add additional handling fees for non-running vehicles, which they almost always do. And so we're talking hundreds there. And then also with customs could also come up with some issues regardless of, it's not like they have to pass cars, they're just visually inspecting them, but it could be held a little longer because, it's red flagged. Why isn't there a motor in it? It's not running, whatever it may be. So they're going to look a little closer at it just to make sure there's no trickery with, like what people did with gray market cars back in the day, swapping engines, VIN plates, bringing parts in separately from the car. So you've kind of opened yourself up to that whole thing too, which might be a huge headache. And then once we get through that, again, you're going to have to deal with domestic shipping again. The shippers are going to charge more. You're not going to really, unless you rent your own stuff and have your own stuff and physically pick it up at the port, you're now going to have to find a shipper with a TWIC card, clearance, and capabilities to get the car on and off that can't do so under its own power. They always charge more than that because, again, you're dealing with the same thing you did domestically in Japan with, rearranging cars and things like that. So whatever, from my experience, whatever, a shipping company charges for a car that runs, they usually will add 50% on for something that's not running. So whatever your quote is, add 50% minimum, really. And again, someone's always going to say, well, hey, I know, if you know someone, great. Those are the exceptions. I'm just giving you the rules. This is kind of the basics. So the $2,000, even $3,000 you might save on a blown motor, engine noise car for a project, in my opinion, not worth it bringing over. The exceptions to that rule will be your more expensive vehicles, your classic Skylines, your Haku Skylines, your classic Celicas, whatever it may be, Cosmos from back in the day, like the really high dollar items. Yes, it might be worth it, but when we're talking kind of the standard cars that we're seeing here stateside, it is not worth the savings for that. So food for thought. If it's something you've been throwing around to save a little money, I hate to say, unless you're like absolutely in love with the car and you just kind of love the process of the build, hey, to each their own. But if you're doing it from a value standpoint, get a chassis stateside, if you're doing a project, or, a chassis with a motor that you want in it that's clean, and a car that's ready to roll from Japan. That's my 2 cents. Let me know what your thoughts are there. But again, I'm not trying to crush anyone's dream or being a know-it-all. I'm just, I'm sharing my experience because these are things that, listen, I didn't even think of until I went through it and talked and went back and forth and tried to find every angle I could to make it feasible. And it really just isn't. Like I said, with very few exceptions, majority of the time, it's just not worth it. So, yeah. But anyway, so on a brighter note, let's talk about some of the cars that have been, I I've been seeing more and more of, and I absolutely love it. You know, there's obviously R32s everywhere, Sylvias everywhere. We get it, but I want to talk about the $15,000 to $20,000 range, right? So this is kind of like the median range for a right-hand drive JDM vehicle, right? We all know the ones that are going to be beneath that. You know, you can get Lorels, you can get MR2s, Sylvias, Z32, Fairladies. I mean, the list goes on and on. Ones that you can get cheaper. A bunch of VIP cars, Celsiors, you know, Crowns, Cedric, Gloria. But I just wanted to focus on kind of the meaty part, the meaty part of the JDM cars, which I think are the 15 to 20. So with that being said, I mean, obviously what comes to mind that's going to be at the top of that is RX-7s. You know, I think you can get a clean stock Type R with kind of normal miles that'll dip in just below 20 or just at that mark. So if that's something you're looking for now, when you're talking about something with a ton of mods, built engine, those are going to creep into like low to mid 20s, you know, and more. You know, there's some that are 28 that just have some rare parts on them. You know, when you get into some RE Menia, when you get into some God, what's the other popular one? Feed, something like that. But anyways, I don't have all this stuff off the top of my head. But when you get into some FDs with some rare parts, they're really going to jack up. But kind of a stock Type R with normal mileage, very feasible to find one for about 20 grand. And you know, we're seeing a lot of R33s. There's companies, you know, if you're following, I mean, listen, I do too. I don't really look at anyone as a competitor. It's just kind of another data module for me to ingest, you know, kind of looking at what other people are doing. And like I've said before, I always think it's good. The more people that import, the better. It just grows the marketplace, and eventually it'll weed out the idiots that are just in it for a quick buck. But yeah, you know, a lot of companies are bringing in truckloads now of R33s. They're easier to find. The auction numbers have definitely gone up in Japan, actually a lot in probably the last 6 months, but they're still, you know, and I'm talking retail. So if you went out to a dealership stateside here to buy one retail, you know, you can get a GTS T or GTS 25T R33 for, you know, high teens. I'd say kind of an average price for a clean coupe would be, you know, anywhere from like 16, 18 in that range. And then obviously, as with the R32s, the sedans are usually a couple G's cheaper for the same equipment. You know, if you're looking Type M to Type M, it's going to be usually about 2 G's cheaper. So, you know, in kind of that 13.5, 15.5 range for the R33 sedans. Me personally, I mean, the coupes I think look a little better. The sedans are starting to really look like Maximas of that era, and especially once you creep around the interior on both of them. I mean, listen, the steering wheels need replaced immediately. They are Maxima steering wheels. And I know I grew up, my dad had a 1990 Maxima, and it just brings back memories. Not so fond. Not a pretty steering wheel. But listen, the cars, I mean, I've seen some really nice ones, GTR front end. All of a sudden, it wakes it right up. You get the right wheels on. The factory offsets are hellacious. I mean, we're talking sunken in like 2 to 3 inches. But, you know, you get some wheels on, do some aesthetics, you bring it down, as with any car. I think they're a gorgeous platform. And it seems like they're going to plateau kind of where they're at. I don't think they're going to increase or decrease in 2 years when the GTRs are available. I think the GTS-Ts are going to kind of stay there. Kind of like with the R32s. The GTS-T models with the RB20 haven't fluctuated as much as the GTRs. The GTR R32s, I mean, I've been tracking them for years. Now for a clean one, you're talking 28, 30 plus grand. And all needles are pointing towards investment still. If you buy one now, you're still going to be in good shape in 5 years. So, but yeah, as of right now, I'm seeing always FDs that you can get 20 or a little bit less. R33s, those fall right into that 15 to 20 range. You have a litany of different options to get there, whether it's the four-door or the coupe, Type M's, whatever you want to get into. And what I've been seeing more of, which I love the platform, is the JZX platform. So whether we're talking the JZX90, the Tourer V, the Mark II, the Chaser, and you can look them up. I mean, I could spend a whole episode talking about kind of the subtle nuances, the difference between them, taillight differences, some of the options, interior, things like that, badging. But really nice car that you can get. Now, you can get a JZX90 chassis for well below 15. But usually those are the automatics. Now, if you're looking at the 1JZ with the R154 tranny, which is the one you want stateside here, of similar year Lexuses, we the the W58, which was made of glass. A lot of people that do these swaps stateside here, they'll put that R154, and they can handle, some pretty decent power, longer gears, but they're definitely a stronger option and a lot harder to find in the JZX90. So that's why the JZX90 chassis will find its way into kind of my list here, the 15 to 20 sweet spot. If you're looking at a manual with lower mileage, a clean example. These cars typically, unlike the FDs, if they have been modified, that usually doesn't increase the price much. If they have a nice set of wheels or body kit, I haven't seen a huge difference. I mean, we're talking maybe $1,000 or so higher, but nothing like FDs and Supras where you'll see, stock to modified fluctuate $4,000 to $5,000 either way. But it's a great chassis. I mean, it's a four-door. There's a lot of interchangeable parts in the U.S. here, so it's easy to get parts for. The 1JZ, I mean, proven platform. You make decent power. It's not going to be your four-digit power type platform, but really smooth. More of a linear power band is most fine than the 2JZ once you start building those. And like I said, it's just a cool. If you see them, they look amazing drifting because they're long, they're well balanced. They've been a great chassis for that. They're a nice chassis for a VIP build. There's just like a lot of options with the JZX90. So for me, for the flexibility, the power plant, and the value, I think in that kind of 15 to 20 range. And really, they're closer to 15 if you're finding one with a manual transmission. I think those are the way to go. Now, some people have been getting into buying the JZX90s with auto, which, you can get those for a lot cheaper, like $12,000 to, in some cases 11, 10 maybe with higher mileage. But, if you want to do the swap, sometimes it's just it's not worth it with getting into the pedals and all the stuff you have to do. And next, so the Toyota Soar. We've been able to get this for a little while, and I'm talking the Z30. So started making them in '92, I think halfway through '92. So that's when those that Z30 platform was available, and then but I've seen more being imported, so that's lending me to believe that people are getting a little more into them because again, it's a 1JZ platform. If you can find one with an R154 factory swap, that'll put it in the the 15 to 20 range, and I think a really nice platform there. This is the car that. Listen, if you want to get into a crazy build, I've built on this chassis myself, swapped a 1J in. If you want to get into something crazy, they're boats. But I'll tell you what, because everything is so over-engineered and developed, you can get the weight down. And if you move the tank back, you can get a nice balance. You can have a pretty fun, long wheelbase track car that you're not going to see everywhere. It's kind of a unique thing. So a lot that you can do with those. They fall into that range, that 15, 20. Again, this is general. There's definitely going to be some exceptions that outline that, but because the 5-speed factory is so rare, it typically bumps them up over that 15K mark from what I've seen. So, and and as far as other cars, I mean, really, Evos, Evo 1 RSs. Those are another one that you can get in that 15 to 20 range, which I think are probably going to go up a little bit this time of year, just because. Actually, I think this is a good time to see them or to buy one, because what I've noticed, and I noticed this last year as well, the auction prices will go up in the wintertime, which is not the case with most cars. But again, all-wheel drive rally car doesn't seem to affect it much. And in some cases, I've actually seen them go up just a little bit in the wintertime just because the inventory in Japan starts really dropping off. So you see a lot of dealers that are bringing in like 6 to 8 cars at a clip. All of a sudden, the wintertime, it's like, 2 to 3, maybe every time they go to the port, or maybe less. So that's why they're all kind of stocking up now. So now's a good time if you're looking for kind of the rally spec JDM car. I think now's a good time. They might go up a little bit in the winter. So, but yeah, I mean, you have the Evo 1RS and you have the Pulsar GTIR. Now those, earlier in the year, a little easier to find. There's a lot less of them popping up at the auction, and the ones that are absolutely beat. I haven't seen a clean one in a while. Clean ones, though, will fetch you easy over 15. Most of the time, I'd say in the 18, like 17 to 18K range for one that's not rusted, that has decent paint and kind of average miles. We'll get you in there because they're really becoming hard to come by because that platform was really popular in Japan for racing. So a lot of guys, Gymkhana, you'd see a lot of those, and since they weren't too expensive, a lot of them, quite frankly, were kept in garages, right? Because these weren't cars that people really pined for. They were like a Fox body Mustang, type of thing. So it's like, yeah, you can get some great performance out of them. A lot of them were tracked and were raced and kind of beat on and left outside, and especially a more popular thing in northern Japan. So, and with that comes more snow, more salt. So there's just a lot of just rust and dents and, wrecked ones that are available when they're available, and the ones that are clean really fetch a lot of money just because of that. Kind of like what we went through with the AE86, they to get a clean one, you got to spend some money, and that's why you don't see many stateside. That might have made my list for the 15 to 20K cars that I think are kind of a nice value and a good car, but you can't really get a clean one for less than that, and there's not enough people that are willing to spend that much for kind of a stock AE86, and the ones that aren't stock are just beat. You don't want anything to do with them, I mean, I've seen them wholesale, like at auction, go for more than this range, that chassis. So they didn't make the list, but yeah, I think from kind of an all-wheel drive standpoint, you can definitely get an Evo 1, Pulsar GTIR, or a WRX in that range, which we're all familiar with the platforms. A lot of parts, a lot of options there. And and then the last one, and again, this is one I've talked about before. I don't think anyone really gives a shit about these, but the Cosmo, the Mazda, the Enos Cosmo, you can get. So they had two versions. One with the 20B, which is one everyone wants, the 3-rotor, and one with the 13. So the 20Bs are probably gonna tip the 20K scale, but if you're looking at the 13B, you can definitely get into a Cosmo for that, really closer to 15. I'd say like that 15 to 17K range for a clean version of a Cosmo, anywhere from like, I don't know, 90 to down to 45,000 miles. And this is miles, not kilometers. I think you can get one in that mix. And I mean, these are cars that, trust me, they will absolutely turn heads. Not going to be a race car. It's a Grand Touring car, but it's a nice option. I've been seeing a few more of them pop up, so I'm hoping they're gaining popularity. There's getting to be more in the auctions. There used to just be like a couple a month that would show up, and now, maybe twice that, but still we're only at like maybe a handful a month that you'll see that are technically legal to bring in. But, if you're making a list of things to look after and that's your range, I don't know, maybe you knew all this. Maybe this was super redundant, or maybe this kind of sparked your interest in something you didn't think of. So, yeah, to kind of surmise what I talked about, FDs, R33 GTSTs, JZX90 platform, whatever you're looking at, Mark II Chaser, the SOAR, Z30s, Evo 1 RS, Pulsar GTIR, WRX, in the Cosmo there. I think is kind of a nice group of cars with availability in that you should be able to find in that 15 to 20 range. Now, again, there's going to be outliers up there that people are like, hey, you forgot about this, you forgot about that. I just think these are nice values in that range that that aren't going to really drop off. That, you know, if you buy, you keep for a while, you'll be in good shape, you have a lot of fun with, great platforms to start with. And my criteria, with the exception of the Cosmo, is really manual. Cosmos, you're not going to get a manual, but all the other ones, you can find a manual in. Motors that we all love, that there's a lot of support here stateside, and just cars that you can build, you can drive how they are, and have a lot of fun with. So hope you enjoyed that little list, little breakdown there, and updates on the business, a little some of the info on importing project cars, and again, help me out with the name, with this detailing thing. I don't know what to get into. I really don't. I need a name that makes sense. I think I need to differentiate from the JDM importer name. Again, it's all going to be under the Elusive Auto Co. umbrella, but I just need some brand separation, I think, between detailing and the sales aspect. So, yeah, as always, hit me up on social with those name ideas, with compliments, criticism, pictures, whatever you feel like sharing. I look at it all. I respond to it all. Seriously. I promise. It's probably unreasonable and silly of me with how busy my time is, but I just enjoy it. It keeps me going. And straight up, sometimes you guys give me good ideas. I mean, you do. I'm going to listen to you. That's kind of my 12 a.m. to 2, well, usually like 1, maybe like an hour a day is all it takes to kind of get back to those things and stuff, get back to any messages. So, and I love it. So keep it coming. As always, on all social media, Elusive Auto Co., ELUSIVE Auto Co. So, yeah, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can email me, Dante at Elusive Auto Co. Give me a shout somewhere. Podcasts, if you're, depending on what platform you're listening to this, I mean, I'm on a good amount now. I think iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and then some obscure ones as well that if you just Google, you'll find. But anyways, I appreciate your time. Hopefully you got something from this. Look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy the drive. Peace.